Hi, I'm Maria Thea Harris, or Velo Sews on social media. Welcome back to SewOver50 podcast on Sew Organised Style. Grab a cuppa and relax with us. On Sew Organised Style podcast, I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we record this podcast and pay respects to the elders past and present. Thanks for joining us on SewOver50 podcast on Sew Organised Style. SewOver50 intersects with all communities. We're a community that is so over ageism. Listeners, if you enjoyed seeing Byrd and Molly run SO50LIVE on the SewOver50 account over the Northern Hemisphere summer months. That's Byrd of Yoga Bird Sews on Instagram and Molly of Micah Molly's House. Byrd and Molly are today's SewOver50 podcast guests. Thank you for coming onto the podcast.
We're excited. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thank you, Maria, for having us.
I'm excited to have you both here because we have separately done podcasts together. So there's one with Molly and one with Byrd, and now we're all together in one space.
We're together!
And the reason we're together is because of SO50LIVE.
It is.
What was the intention when you both developed SO50LIVE?
We came upon this separately. I kind of reached out to them at one point and said, it'd be kind of interesting just to highlight more representation in a different way, faster way in my mind of these lives. I was doing it on my own and I was like, that could be kind of fun. How could we get the audience interact? And I reached out to them and I said, and I will do the work.
Yeah.
I don't want to hand you something else. And I think at that point they were like, I don't know. And then Byrd came in and did some magic.
Yeah. So during Women's History Month, for the first time ever, I just felt driven to lead a few live conversations with creatives or sewists in the community who had really inspired me. One of them happened to be Sandy, and the other one was Carly Kenyon, and then Juana Chandler. And so I held these interviews in March, and it was also during the time that there were some other really big things happening in the US, as you may remember.
Yes.
Filling of a very critical Supreme Court judge seat. I really enjoyed the opportunity to talk with each of the three sewists, very strong, diverse women. And I really wanted more. And then I've been connected with the SewOver50 community. I really love what Sandy, I love what Judith, what they have been doing in the community, what you do as well, Maria, with the podcast. All of the different pods are there. And I felt, like you were saying, Molly, it would be great to have an opportunity for that live interaction with different sewists, because you just never know sometimes which direction it may be going. But you also get the opportunity to have folks that are joining to ask questions and to engage. And I just thought that would be, honestly, a lot of fun and a learning opportunity for me. So I approached Sandy and Judith, and they said, it's interesting that you mentioned this because we have someone else. Molly is also interested. Reach out to Molly. And so I reached out and we started talking a little bit, talked by phone, and we immediately connected and clicked. And we thought, this is going to be amazing. And so when we presented the plan and the idea jointly to Judith and Sandy, they bought into it. And, we started off, I think, initially with thinking, we might do a couple of them. I don't know that I thought it would go on forever. I think in my mind, I was hoping it would go on for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
I watched your lives that you did, and they were very powerful, and you did get a lot of engagement. So that was a really good test to see what the live environment was all about.
I had listened to Byrd, some of her lives before. Yeah. It's a different thing from a podcast, and you are dependent on this engagement. I don't know what my expectation was, and yet I've been very pleased to see how many people have tuned in and then who have also just listened to it afterwards.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love is how the live is growing in the sense that we're getting more and more engagement where folks are asking questions or leaving comments. And it is an area that we want to continue to grow, getting people to feel comfortable asking questions. I mean, the folks that we have interviewed so far are so incredibly amazing, and amazing in the sense that they are doing wonderful things in the creative world, but in different and unique spaces. So it's very, very interesting.
It's been really fun. I mean, that was the whole thing, is like reaching out to different places and kind of, we've got this big community in a lot of ways. And so you're like, that is a rich bubble to reach into and be like, what else is in there? What else? And so that's been the funnest thing, is who is out there? And people have been super receptive. Like, we sent a list out of who we wanted to talk to, and we weren't sure if people were going to be like, oh, I don't know, this live thing. The people we've had on have been wonderful.
The good thing is that the SewOver50 community is a very safe community. SO50LIVE also provides a safe environment for people to get engaged and to watch and to ask questions.
I think that's also why initially there was two of us, so that we could feel comfortable about pushing the questions, and because you don't know, it's live.
Also, to kind of play off of each other.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of work that goes into this behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Molly is incredibly amazing at doing research on different guests that we've had, pulling together all of our graphics. I think I did it once and I was struggling trying to figure out how to move stuff around in Canva. Even the more recent ones where it's a still picture and then we slide in. It's really, really cute. But she does all of that work behind the scenes.
I love me some Canva.
So it's kind of interesting how they paired us together and we bring different skills to the table. And we've been able to drop into what I would say is a pretty decent flow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It could have just gone south, but it's like we both kind of were sharing a few things. And then it was like, these are what our strengths are, and let's go together with that. And it's been really great. We're doing this as a hobby, so you don't know how much you're taking on, but we've got this flow right now. At least it feels like you put some time into it and it's fun. It's not a drudgery.
Good.
That's the thing, is I got a great partner.
Ditto.
Exactly. So we'll go back to how you both started working together. One would ask the questions and lead, and then the other one would be looking after the questions coming in from the audience and the technical side. Is that how you wanted it to work?
Yes, that was the outline of how we had it. And Byrd is very professional and will keep those lines.
Molly, you are amazing. And let me tell you, it was really honestly Molly's idea. I didn't know when we first started this thing whether or not it would be Molly leading one and I'm listening in, or I'm leading it. And then she says, no, we really should do it together because there's so many moving pieces. If I'm interviewing, someone needs to be there saying hello to people, greeting people, reading the questions. And we're learning some things along the way. But I think it really does help so that we can capture as much as we can, because things are moving very, very quickly.
You don't want to interrupt the person you're interviewing, and yet you also need to be able to drop in and be like, hey, there's a question, because that's the whole thing, is we are trying to continue this interactive thing, which I think is a little foreign. I've been on other lives and I don't know if it's an age thing, if it's a cultural thing, but some of them, like, there's like sidebar conversations going on, which almost is like too much. But I do find everyone's very respectful. So there's this kind of push and pull, and having the two of us there is really helpful. And, you're talking to somebody and you're kind of like, the other person has an insight and they're able to drop in and be like, wait, you're going down that road. And hey, wait, the two of us has gotten into a flow. So I think when we started, it was probably like we had our roles, but I would say the last 2-3 ones were much more interactive with each other and with the guest.
And it's also helpful because if there are any technical issues, you have two of us on. So we can keep things going. I know there was one time that for whatever reason, I kept getting dropped. And we definitely have grown with how to run a live, how to start the live, everything that goes into it, because there is a little bit of work that happens after the live to get it ready. But those who want to listen to it later,
oh yeah,
there's definitely work there.
Absolutely. And that is not my forte. That's when Byrd comes in with her expertise.
But we have such a good rhythm now that it happens. Initially, it would take a long time. And that sense of panic that, oh, if I don't get this in, I don't get it done in time, will I lose the live? Will it just disappear? Because it's technology for me that's new. Yeah.
You're like, oh, if I hit a button, is this all just going to go away? There was a lot of pressure. The first few, we were like, oh my God. And we would be texting each other, it'd close up. And then you're like, but wait, I have to focus on this. I mean, the good thing is if we now have a great template, we've been able to build this structure so that we know how it's run and we're able to share that. We're going to go out and consult now.
Good. Honestly, it sounds so stressful.
Maria can consult with us, maybe.
Byrd didn't know that, but that's our next thing. Where it's a trio, the three of us. We're going out on the road.
Why not?
We're meeting up.
We can do it. I'm down for it. You know, there's still some discussion that came up in one of our recent lives of hosting a SewOver50 meetup in New York. So we have to make sure that we keep that on the agenda.
Yes.
Because I think that that would be amazing.
We're also dispersed. The one thing that's been challenging is the time differences. Like we're still probably not capturing some of the time differences. The two of us are in the US, so we do revolve it around what we can do. But what's come out of it is, yeah, let's do a meetup. This would be fun to continue this conversation. And that's what's really cool about this online social thing is there's still this drive to want to meet people.
Oh, yeah. The connections that we have via Instagram is really showing now with the meetups that we've got coming up and possible ones in the future. Because honestly, if you were to have one in the New York area somewhere, for those of us who have to fly in, it'll be a whole week.
Oh, look at it's growing.
Yeah, cool.
But there's so many things to do in and around New York.
Yeah.
That spending a week there, you would love it.
For me to fly in, it is like about an 8 to 10 hour day because I'm not really close to an airport.
Yeah.
When I go to the East Coast, I'm like, yeah, I'm here for a week.
A must.
One of the things that we've learned, we were talking a little bit earlier as we were preparing for our time together, is our personalities. And so some of the sewists that we talk with who may be more introverted is keeping the questions flowing, making them feel comfortable, being in front of the camera. We will also do a walkthrough so that folks feel comfortable. So if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in being a guest,
yes,
and you've never been on live, please don't let that intimidate you. Either Molly or myself will walk you through it a few days before to make you feel completely comfortable. You know, we've done some of that, which I think has been really helpful.
That's been super helpful because I think there are people like, I'm okay about talking, but then live, that's a different element. And then just the technology of getting on and off. You know, we have a nice sheet that we give out and tells you how to get on, but then we do our dry runs, which are always kind of hilarious because we actually get on Instagram to do it. You know, you're getting on and you're just basically because people start joining and you're like, no, we're not talking about anything here. We're just doing a practice. And you're always getting like I'll get people DM me later like, Molly, would you just let us know ahead of time? I'm like, oh, it's just fast.
Oh, that's what that was.
That was, yeah, that quick thing.
Oh, you've seen one too, Maria.
And I thought, oh, wow.
Like, what is happening?
What did I miss?
I didn't know this was happening.
I need to like title them somehow. Just a practice.
So the last practice one I did, I had an option. I hadn't seen that before. And I hope it's still there. When you're on Instagram, you can actually do a practice one and it doesn't show up.
Wow.
No, that's on the East Coast.
It was actually on the East Coast. I was talking with Lou and, you know, making sure she felt comfortable and everything. We ended up talking for like 30, 35 minutes, just about everything. And it was all a practice. No one was able to hear, see, or anything. So it was pretty cool.
Every time I do it, my mom gets on. And then she starts like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'll call you. Like, Mom, get off. I'll just talk to you later. What are you doing?
At the end of the day, Molly, she's supporting you.
Yes.
She does. She's super supportive.
Good. That's good.
My mommy loves me and I love her.
So look, back to SO50LIVE because that is all part of it. Going forward, what are the intentions of how you're going to develop SO50LIVE?
I will say that one of the things as far as what we want to do is we want to continue to support SewOver50, right? We definitely want to continue to support the sewing community across the board with a focus on those that are over 50. And then to just really ensure that we remain visible. If I were to sum it up in one sentence, it would be that we remain visible, whether you are a person of color, whether you are super tall, whether you are curvy. At the end of the day, it's about remaining visible.
Yes.
Yes. We want to continue this pulling up of representation and who everyone is seeing. And I mean, that's the goal. And it's the fun of it. Bottom line is like, that's the interesting part of it is I just want to talk to people that don't look and sound like me.
And keeping it fun and keeping us visible. You're doing it in the most visible way on SewOver50LIVE. Visibility is what you're both really doing, is you're raising the visibility of people in the sewing community who are mature sewists.
That's what excites me to do another season or whatever we're doing is that continued seeing what we can find. 40,000 plus people out there. Come on. We know you're interesting out there. Let's hear from you.
One of the things that is nice about live is, getting to see the sewist. So if you're not a follower of that particular sewist, you're not going to see any of their makes. You won't know anything about them. I think about some of the folks, I'm thinking about some of the folks that we've recently interviewed, Carolyn Norman. I mean, just deep, the kind of information. And we ran out of time. I mean, there was so many things. We're going to have to do a part 2 with her. Michael Philpott. I mean, it is amazing the things that he has created that I see him in on Instagram. Very humble gentleman. I had no idea. He talked about SewOver50. I probably should be in the SewOver70 club. We had no idea. And then all of the things that he's done. But Lou Sheffer with So Much to Design, My Makes for the Month. I mean, actually, we see them all the time with pictures, but to hear their voice, get to know them a little bit better, it brings it into 3D. You get all of it, I think, which adds a different angle.
One advantage of being older is you have stories. We have a huge life behind us. And so getting to hear those stories is just fun. And I think, I wasn't even thinking about it, but just seeing the face, what does that person look like? All of that, because so much is photographed from the sewing community. We tend to be more of a photo-based social group.
And I love the variety of accents.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've had a number of people from the UK, Portugal. We've had California, Pennsylvania here in the US, British Columbia, LA, and we have a number of others that are in the lineup. I know you weren't expecting me to say this, but on October 25th, so guys that are listening to this podcast, we want to make sure that you put that date on your calendar because your podcast host, Maria, will be our guest.
Oh,
that's right. On
Yes!
SewOver50LIVE. So we'll get to turn the tables and get to ask Maria questions.
Yep. But there'll be stories.
Yep. There'll be stories.
Part of the thing was like, let's do this like in 20-minute interviews. I think it's easier for people who've never done it to not have to commit. They're like, oh, more than that. But there's often where we're both looking at the clock, like, oh, we're really supposed to get off, but I just don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's great that we're focused on that, but it is funny because there's a lot of part 2s that have to go on.
Good. That's really good to hear. You've both worked so hard in getting the technology sorted, getting sorted as to how you bring people on and make them comfortable, that if people do want to be on SewOver50LIVE, what should they do?
Reach out to us.
Yes, reach out to us. That is a great question. We are currently looking to book our first quarter 2023. Can you believe it's going to be 2023 soon? So we're looking to book our first quarter of 2023. So if you are a sewer or creative over the age of 50 and interested in chatting with us for about 20 minutes or so, just send a direct message to Molly or myself.
I'm at Mike and Molly's house. Mike and Molly's house on Instagram.
You can reach me, Yoga Bird Sews, also on Instagram. So either Molly or myself. And we would love to have you as a guest. And we said sewers over the age of 50. But if you happen to be a pattern company, fabric company, an entity individual or group that runs maybe a challenge that is directed or supported by sewers over the age of 50, reach out. We would love to talk to you as well. So it isn't just for sewers over the age of 50. If you support the community in any way, we would be interested in hearing from you.
Yeah, the visibility of the over 50, we want to be visible.
Because, SewOver50 intersects with all communities, and really we're so over ageism, as I say at the start of every podcast. And that's what we want to overcome and continue to be visible, not just in the sewing community, but being visible on social media.
I can remember I am the age of when Friends was very popular. And I remember my mom one time saying something like, everything on TV is somebody your age. And I kind of was like, oh, and at that point, so this would have been the early 90s, when I looked, I was like, oh my God, all of the sitcoms are about 20-something-year-olds. She was just like, why would I be interested? It's like, I turn on the TV and all I see is my kids. And I think that's so interesting, the prevalence that feeds through everything and how things have changed. And at SewOver50, a lot of our push is to the pattern companies. We want to see ourselves on those patterns. Yeah, it's great if we're on your feet. It's even better if we're on your envelope. So yeah, if you're one of those, we want to talk to you.
Yeah, not only on the pattern envelope, but on the pattern envelope and looking amazing, not just in something thrown together, but something that speaks to many different personalities, whether it's feeling sexy or feeling whatever that feeling might be, but seeing folks that look like us, sporting all different types of fabric and different types of clothing items, that's really what I'm hoping to see with the big four.
Absolutely. Because the one thing I have learned since I've been on Instagram about the sewing community is they're super fashion forward. We're not just making boring outfits. So many people out there are really making fashion lines as their hobby. We have that flair. We're a good selling point here, Byrd. Our next call is to the big four, right?
Yeah, I want to go into my local fabric store here. For us, Maria, a big one is Joann's.
Yeah.
Because I don't usually go to some of the other stores, but mostly I go to Joann's to get big four patterns. But when I open up the books or the patterns that they have displayed on the counter, I don't see any generally with models that are over the age of 50. You just don't see it. They're doing a lot of really great work in the space of curvy models, even tall models, even male models. But you don't see that so much with folks that are over the age of 50. And I'm really hoping to see more of that, because I feel that when I get dressed up and I go out and I put myself together, I think I look pretty darn good. And I would love to see that on pattern envelopes, that would entice me and encourage me to select that pattern.
It would be good to see more representation in the pattern books and also in the emails that they send out for you to buy their patterns, because I always see the same sort of looks, the same age group. And I think, okay, we're not there yet. There's a bit more work to be done there.
Yeah, definitely.
Maria, we have a number of really great guests coming up. So on the 27th, Melanie Wise, it's Melanie Darling, I like to say it that way, is going to be our special guest. October 9th, we have Lena King.
Oh, I love Lena.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be so amazing. She sews so many amazing Ankara items, garments, and whatnot. And I can't wait to meet her. And then October 25th, we're meeting with Maria, our podcast, and the founder of So Organized Style, who is from Sydney, Australia. So I'm just putting it all out there, Maria, doing a little blurb for you for October 25th. We're really excited about that. And I'm excited, like I said, to be able to turn the tables. So we're excited.
I'm excited to be on SewOver50LIVE to support the work that you and Molly are giving the SewOver50 community.
I would love to see other sewists in the SewOver50 community share it as well. The more we get it out there, the more people will know about it.
Yeah, please, if you're out there, if you tune in, when you see us, please put one up on your story. You can add that little reminder time so it'll actually notify the person right before it's happening. We need our PR team. So everyone jump in.
So that's open slather permission to repost.
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Repost.
Repost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Repost, and not only repost when we have things coming up, but also the recordings, the playbacks.
Great.
Saying that you should be looking at the live if you're driving in your car, but if you have it coming through your Bluetooth speakers and you're listening to it. But honestly, I think the So Organized style is really what you should be listening to. That's where I listen to it, Maria, is in my car.
Oh,
I have a drive, 1 hour drive every Friday, and I just pop it right on.
oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I get like 3 episodes in.
Thank you both. I'm so thankful that you guys listen as well. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And support everyone. You should be supporting So Organized Style too. That's not coming from Maria. That's coming from Molly.
And that's with an S and not a Z.
At the end of the day, we're all supporting the SewOver50 community with both SO50LIVE and So Organised Style podcast.
Absolutely.
Byrd and Molly, thank you for coming on to SewOver50's podcast and for talking to us about SO50LIVE, because it's been great to see it start, and it's going to be even more enjoyable to see it progress over the coming months.
Thank you, Maria. This has been great.
Thank you, Maria. It's been a lot of fun. I've just enjoyed spending the evening with you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
And thank you both for coordinating your times to be here, because, you know, we live in 3 different parts of the world, and that's just the beauty of what we can do on social media.
We've gotten a lot of practice.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye, you all.
This episode of SewOver50 podcast on So Organised Style was produced by me, Maria Thea Harris, with permission of Byrd and Molly, sound by bensound.com. Listeners, make sure you direct message Judith and Sandy on the SewOver50 Instagram account to let them know you want to contribute a guest post for the SewOver50 community. And keep an eye out for the upcoming SO50LIVE events on Instagram hosted by Byrd and Molly. Remember, these engaging conversations are live and can be watched on the SewOver50 account if you miss them on the day. You can subscribe to So Organised Style podcast, but with an S, not a Z, on all good podcast apps. Make sure you go back and listen to our free SewOver50 podcast archive, and if you can, consider supporting the production of this podcast on Patreon. We look forward to joining you in your sewing room next time. Stay safe, everyone.